Hello everybody, I'm back with another video. It's your boy Michael. Today I'll be talking about my testimony and how I came to Christ. And my first win, or my W, a W that I received during my targeted experience. Today I'll be talking about that. So I was gang stalked twice. First time it was a spiritual awakening. It wasn't anything insidious the first time around. I was just studying the Bible and I was practicing some things that I'd seen without a pastor, and I felt like I was being tested in the verses. Like, for instance, it said love is kind, love is patient, love is self-control, all that good stuff. And somebody, while I was walking home, somebody said, F you, F you. And I was just like, I love you. And I just kept walking. And then I got home and I was hit with something. My mind spiraled out. I had a glistening in my eye, like a sparkle, twinkle in my eye. And my mind was moving like a computer and that surge of energy. It was just crazy. Crazy stuff. Crazy, And then I ended up going to school and I was talking like I was breaking the fourth wall to the universe or something. And before I know it, I was transferred to a hospital, a mental institution. And, I was in and out of a mental institution. My mind was just in another place. But that was the first time. The second time was while I was in college and I was on the verge and on the rise to power. I was becoming vice president and president of organizations. And on that journey to power, I was making enemies for telling the truth, for sharing my truths. Didn't know I was rubbing people the wrong way. I was just being honest. And, some people be like, it's slander, it's this, but I was just expressing my truth. I was talking about people. I was telling people about them. I was talking about people too. I was just like, hey man, you need this person is this person. But they took it as, oh, you're slandering people. So I get it. But there was this one guy in particular. He was a part of fraternity or whatever. And man, he was powerful. He was part of an elite fraternity. And we didn't like each other. Like every other time we was going at it in meetings and all types of stuff, back to back. And, he would compete with me and stuff like that. And I didn't like him, And there was this one time where he did something, like put his finger in my face. And I said, all right, I got you. So I went and I told some coworkers, some newly employed coworkers about him. I said, this is what he's planning, this is what he's this is that. And man, they were like, oh really, what? And yeah. And I never talked to those coworkers again. I was just like, man, I said they were hiding or whatever. They were hiding from me or whatever. So I didn't go near them. And he took that and then he had a whole he had a whole plot. And I was like, they were trying to set me up to talk about him again. And I didn't fall for it, of course. But I did, I don't know, I said something. I was like, oh, we're man of distinction or something like that. I said something. And then it got to my mentor at the time. My mentor said, hey, I heard you and such was beefing. And I was just like, wow, this person, it actually got to my mentor. And that really made me mad. And they tried to portray me like, when they said respect his position. Because I said that about Trump. We should respect Trump because he's still our president. And they felt like, nah. So they implemented what I said, and they said, you should respect his position. You know what I mean? So that really made me mad because it was like a little shot. Mr. Do It himself. He didn't have the balls to say it to my face. So I said, you know what? You ain't gonna talk to me? I ain't gonna talk to you. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write you a note. I wrote him a note. And when I wrote him a note, I guess it was like a declaration of war. if you might say. Because after that, it went quiet. Oh yeah, and then I told the dean about how I was being targeted and stuff like that, and about the incident, about what happened, and somebody got in trouble, somebody got suspended or whatever, and then like he got in trouble, for that. So, I didn't like that. Like I said, I didn't like that. That I didn't like any of that, and like I said, somebody got suspended, and like I blew his whole cover, and like they try to make it seem like it was natural, but it wasn't. Like the whole setup. So after that, like people were mad. People wanted their revenge. I had this one guy who tried to set me up at every turn, right? Like he tried to get me to go to events. He wanted to know my number. Be careful about who you give your number out to. So, he wanted all this. And he couldn't get me for a while. And then people started acting robotic. People started appearing where I go and take the bus at and everything. You know what I mean? People started appearing. People started, just waiting around where I catch the bus. Then people started acting robotic and systematic and all this. And the dude who tried to get me to go to events or whatever was stalking on the train. He stopped me twice. And before you know it, I was hit with some type of Jesus spell. Like, I thought I was Jesus. People were acting like I was Jesus. I'm like, this is a conspiracy. At first, I denied it. And when I denied it, nobody did anything. But when I played with it, it was like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? But people wanted to act like I was Jesus. You know what I mean? So I had to go along with this stuff. And the cell, lasted a while. And, excuse me. And I said, dang, this is crazy. Jobs were appearing and stuff like that. It was like it was Christmas. And then it started getting darker. Like police was showing up, like stopping me and, all that. They were in on it. It started getting darker for you, boy. And I said, all right, I'm gonna call these people out. And that's what they wanted me to do, to react. They were setting me up to react. Now they wanted me to murder somebody. That was the initial plan. But I didn't do that. I was too smart. I was like, no, I'm not gonna murder nobody. That's too much to murder anybody. But I did send an email calling them out. Excuse me. I sent the email calling them out. That email sounded so crazy to people, calling them out. So they banned me from the school for a little while. They suspended me. And, everything went upside down from there. As soon as I got kicked out, everything was denied. I was being stalked. Cops were in on it. I tried to call the cops. My accounts were hacked. My phone was hacked. Everything was crazy. I was getting hit with witchcraft. My body was being altered. I ran around trying to get help. Going to Catholic churches, going to psychiatric wards, calling the cops, trying to get witches to, read and what's going on. Like, I was running like a chicken with my head cut off, bro. I was really scared. I thought I was gonna die. And man, I prayed and cried. 2019 was horrible. And I said, to myself, I prayed to God. I'm a member. I said, God, if you deliver me justice, I will serve you. That's exactly what I said. And before I know it, it dies down. Like the stalking and all that dies down after 6 months. And, it's like quiet. And I go and call my vice president of the college. And I said, hey, I need help or whatever. She said, hey, go to the hospital, this and that and all that and whatever. So I go to the hospital. And when I go to the hospital, like everything started changing. Like my brain started working properly. My body started coming back together a little bit and everything. Like I can get functions and stuff. And I said, oh, it was them. It was them. That's when it clicked. It was them. I was like, because at first they were blaming some girl I was talking to. You know what I mean? So I thought it was her, but it was them. It was them. So I got accepted back into the college again. But by the time I came back, everybody was gone. Everybody that did that dirt or whatever, they were gone. They were moved. They were fired or whatever. Everybody was gone. You know what I mean? Except the president and a few others. There were a few people still there, but everybody that was involved were gone. So I was like, all right, whatever. I went to college, continued, got my degree. You know, that was a win. And then a couple of years later, I'm going to church, and I'm in church, and, you know, I'm struggling with my faith. And I come home one day, and then I get a phone call from my homeboy. He said, you know such and such? Yeah, I know such and such. He died. I was like, the person who stopped me, you know, on that train? He's like, yeah, he died. He died in a car crash. I was like, whoa. And at first I brushed it off, you know, and kept going to church. My grandma. And then I get a phone call from her. She's talking. My grandma, she's saying, hey, I'm a member. You know, I made a promise to God. I said, God, if I get my husband and get certain things together, I will serve you. And right then and there, I knew it clicked. God killed him. God delivered justice because he reminded me of my promise. So I said, wow, that's a promise that he's expecting me to uphold. So that is why I became Christian. I stopped doing astrology. I stopped doing numerology. I stopped studying the occult. And to my fellow targeted individuals, to my fellow chosen ones, you know, keep praying, ask for justice, even go to the church. Because I'm going to tell you, I said, I gave tithes, I paid my tithes, and some things been happening for me. You know what I mean? Even Solomon, he gave a whole bunch of burnt offerings, and something happened to him, right? What are you giving to God? What are you giving? Forget the church. Forget it. How could you give to God? Think of that. You know, because this is a moment, a situation that has you desperate to get out of. It's a situation that makes you desperate. So what I would encourage is you do all you can to serve God, and you'll make progress. That's what I encourage. So to my fellow targeted individuals, keep hope alive. There is hope. And like my gang stalker died, one of them, there could be justice delivered to you as well. So keep hope alive. Peace. God bless.